So one reason I've done this video is I've never found if this thing has been a ball bearing or a bushing. And this particular white Westinghouse has definitely got a bushing. This is the worn bushing on a dryer from the 70s. Motor number is Q612141 on a Westinghouse. I'm going to show the bushing that is basically worn out. I've got this part off of the motor, which was just a shield. Behind this was what was left of some pieces of felt, which was the oiler. That has got about the same amount of slop as the thickness of a credit card. That's up and down because the pulley that was on here, the belt is tensioned up with the gizmo here with the spring. There's a spring here on the side. Got the pulley off of it. There's no play side to side. So this is gone to be elliptical shape here. And to keep this going, I put oil in there over the last month or so. And if you had to, what you really need to do is get a thick oil in there, like a 40 or 50 grade oil, because the clearance is higher. But the bushing in there is wallowed out. And the pulley on here, here's what the part number is on the pulley. This is a white Westinghouse Frigidaire number, Electrolux. This is the old Westinghouse number. And what they did back in the 70s is they went through and added like 4 digits extra to it and dropped the Q. So a lot of the parts on my washing machine and dryer are 5300, 5301, or 5303, and then what was the old Q part number that goes back into the 60s, 50s, whatever. So the fan over here is a 7-blade fan. And it screws on with the screw that's over here like this. All these different types of motors and stuff, you can't, just because it fits one model, you got to make sure you fix the correct one that you've got because of the way the fan attaches. Some of them will look like a centrifugal squirrel cage. This has just got 7 big blades on it. And it does have a D shaft on it. This came right off. I was really worried about, did this before a couple months ago, and I was worried about pulling this off. It just came off. And the pulley on here, it was actually kind of a booger bear to get off. I went through and had a hard time getting the set screw undone. This one does not have a D-shaped feature on the pulley. It only is held by the set screw. And this guy here, I went through and took an Allen wrench I happen to have in the garage, and I put it on here and twisted this thing actually another couple turns, which is kind of unusual. So I don't know if this is a real cheap set screw. It had an 1/8 inch, has an 1/8 inch hex, but I had this thing twisted like a pretzel, Tell City pretzel. I had this thing twisted about another couple turns, and this must be a cheap Allen wrench to do that. Normally I've busted them, so this may be a cheap knockoff. So what I ended up doing is I ended up heating this thing up with the torch outside. I heated this thing up fairly hot, and I sprayed Croil on here. And there's 2 things you can do. The Croil tends to penetrate in the little gap that's in here, and when it's in here, it's way down a lot lower. I took a knife and kind of scratched around the edge, and then when it's hot, you can go ahead and take Croil WD-40, PB Nut Blast, or whatever, liquid wrench. If you spray it here in the center, you're doing 2 things. One is you tend to locally cool this off, so the set screw is going to cool quicker than this because you're forcing stuff down into the thing that is fairly hot, 300 or 400 degrees, and that'll tend to shock it. And so I actually did that a whole bunch. I had a real devil of a time to get this off of here. Finally got the set screw to come out of there. Thought I was going to have to buy a brand new pulley of that, but that's been on since 1976 on this unit. And It's funny because that was all my worry with this. Just came off just with ease. I couldn't get this off in September, but I put some coil on it, and this sucker just came. I just pulled it off by hand. This is the guard here. This one here tightens with a right-hand thread. There's some of them that have a left-hand thread. That's why a motor that just sort of looks like it's going to fit, you got to be really careful because they change the design of these things around. So one reason I've done this video is I've never found if this thing has been a ball bearing or a bushing. And this particular white Westinghouse has definitely got a bushing. No side to side at all. Just up and down. And then there's the piece of felt. Now, if you're on a desert island, maybe there's a way you could turn this bushing 90 degrees and get some more life out of it. It looks like this part of the die cast, that's probably 383 die cast aluminum. That is the same as this, and this is just a rubber piece with a piece of plastic. Its whole is what you in the cradle of the motor. To get this apart, this looks like it's glued or epoxied. I don't know if you undo these screws around here to get this apart. It looks like it's epoxied together. But this motor electrically is still good. If you want to use this for something else, the start and run winding, everything is okay. It's just that it's got a hard start condition mechanically because of this the slop that's up on here is tending to have the belt ride way up on here in the pulley. And I can still look at this and see it is barrel shaped. The fatter on the outside, but it's been riding toward this edge is the motor wear because this has been pushed up like this. It's been riding a little bit over to the outer edge of this. This piece goes onto here. Of course, the pulley goes on. I've got a new motor I got off eBay, and I've been putting off putting a new motor on there because I've really never had a problem till about a month ago. It didn't want to start. They had a large load of clothes in it and didn't want to go, so I went ahead and gave the drum a little turn, put some oil on it, and got another month out of it. And then the last month it's been kind of acting screwy where it'll start sometimes and not others. You can undo the belt, it'll start every time, so it's not a winding problem. You can grab the shaft with something and it's got tons of torque at the, without the belt attached. It's just that when this is up like this, you've got a binding situation where the belt is riding high at this edge. Now, if I could, with ease, I got this backwards, if I could have gone through and undo this with undoing the motor and put this back out farther, I guess maybe the belt would tend to ride more over here, but then it's going to ride over on this piece, hog the edge of this, so that wouldn't work. And if you're on a desert island, probably what you could do is you can actually put something, if you really want to rig something up, you can use a piece of brass, something that'll wear, and physically have a curved piece and push down there and let that be a new bearing surface onto here. See, that's got the shaft all the way here, so you can't sneak in a new piece of round material. You could press one down in that bolt pocket there. I guess if you're a machinist, you could get a piece of brass and stick it down in there. So this has got the 1/2-inch bore and then fit it to this OD. And that would probably get you another many years to do that. And that's just the regular oil-like bearing. And since this is all glued together here, you're not going to be able to get that apart. You have to bust that apart. It looks like it's epoxied in there. Of course, this is the start gizmo. The connections down here are what you use to connect the coil together. So the thing has got to come up to speed before it runs the coil. That's just so if the power is off, the heating element is off. It's got to come up to speed. before the coil is connected. So if the motor stops on this type of design, you can't get any power to the heater. So I thought at first it had a ball bearing. The question is, can you stick a ball bearing in there? You might be able to stick a ball bearing in that bore. Sure enough, you can get a 1/2 inch ball bearing with a bore. What you could do is get one that was undersized to fit in that, and then block it here. Put some shims, wood or something, into here, all around here, to get this to center. And that would work. That would actually be very easy to do. 1/2 inch ball bearing bore is common as dirt. Get one that's slightly undersized of this bore,